eyes and your vision are under attack. Damaging blue light from the sun, your phone, your computer, your tablet, even light bulbs and car headlights is constantly bombarding you. The good news is our eyes actually already have a line of defense to counter the effects of blue light. This defense is made up of 3 pigments called carotenoids. MacuHealth with Micromicelle, the only supplement with the exclusive patent on all 3 macular carotenoids and Micromicelle technology.
Do your patients know what presbyopia is?
There are people who are afraid of the press.
Have you talked to your patients about multifocal contact lenses?
I've heard the bifocal, but not multifocal.
Exactly, not multifocal.
Do you need help with your multifocal strategy? Learn more at the conclusion of this episode. With more screen usage and indoor time, myopia, also known as nearsightedness, is increasing and getting worse in children. Now, certified eye doctors can prescribe MiSight One Day, the first and only FDA-approved soft contact lens to slow myopia progression in age-appropriate children. Visit CooperVision.com to find a Brilliant Futures certified eye doctor near you. Good morning, I'm Dr. Kerry Gelb, and welcome to Wellness 1280 on Open Your Eyes Radio. Please listen as I discuss the newest information in the world of health, nutrition, and sports every Saturday morning, 6 a.m. Central Time on AM 1280 The Patriot. Also, please share your thoughts by emailing me at drkerrygelb@gmail.com. That's drkerrygelb@gmail.com, and visit my new website, wellness1280.com, where we have all guest links, Wellness 1280 info, and previous shows. Wellness is taking over the Patriot Airways for the next hour. Sit back and enjoy my interview with Dr. Conor Robs. There has been a 4.7 decline in medical school applicants for the 2023-2024 cycle, making the second consecutive year of decreased applications. In contrast, optometry school applications remain strong. According to the Association of Schools and Colleges of Optometry, ASCO, there were a record-breaking 2,800 plus applicants for the 2023-2024 cycle, the highest number in recent years. Today's guest is Illinois optometric physician, Dr. Conor Robs. Dr. Robs is on a mission to keep optometry and mission strong by educating and inspiring high school students about the educational path to become an optometrist. Dr. Robs is a published author in numerous medical journals for his work in retinal health, including research on how nutrition and exercise positively affect patients with neurological conditions as observed through ocular health scans. One of his research publications was recognized as most influential at the American Academy of Optometry 2020 national meeting. His area of expertise include advanced ocular disease and glaucoma management, specialty contacts, pediatric eye exams, and family eye care. Dr. Robs, thank you for joining me today on Open Your Eyes Radio and podcast with Dr. Kerry Gelb.
Dr. Gelb, thank you very much for having me today. I appreciate it.
I think all of us in the field of optometry is very proud of you. It's been many years where there has nobody that's really gone to the high schools and promoted optometry as a great profession, which it is. And I'm sure you're part of the reason why applicants are increasing. But before we do that, and I know part of your 3-point program is to take retinal scans of the students and teach them about retinal scans. We're in a very unique position. We are able to take scans of the retinal capillaries. When I graduated from optometry school, we used an ophthalmoscope, and we were able to see about 150 microns. So when somebody had diabetes, say, by the time they had side effects in the eye, such as bleeding or something we call exudates, the person usually knew they had diabetes. But things are different today with the retinal technology because we can see about 8 microns. So tell me, how do we use retinal scans to help us diagnose disease sooner?
Well, retinal imaging really came to the forefront in most practices, I would say roughly 15 years ago, and it's quickly becoming the standard in how we practice optometry. In order to look at the tissue of the back of the eyes, which we call the retina, there's two different options. One, we can either dilate the eyes and make the pupil bigger, and two, we can take these retinal images. These retinal images are a simple camera flash that we can take at the back of the eyes, and it's really changed the way we practice. There are several different structures in the back of the eyes that we are very privy as optometrists that we can only see through the eyes and not any other tissue of the body. We can regularly look at the blood vessels of the back of the eyes, in which we can't look through any other structure, as well as the optic nerve, which is a part of your brain, your second cranial nerve. There are several different conditions systemically that we are looking for when we're looking at the back of the eyes, at the optic nerve, as well as the blood vessels. Neurologically, we want to ensure that your second cranial nerve, your optic nerve, is flat and doesn't have any inflammation to it. Many times as optometrists, we're looking at the optic nerve, and sometimes we see inflammation of the optic nerve. There is pressure building up, and it can be for a variety of different reasons and conditions. I feel like our bread and butter, Carrie, is multiple sclerosis, right? We talk about this specific demyelinating condition affecting the eyes first. 1 in 4 people that have multiple sclerosis, the presenting sign is optic neuritis. That person has pain on eye movement. That optic nerve with that retinal image, we can see that optic nerve inflamed. It is literally bulging out of the back of the eye there due to the pressure and inflammation. And that's just with a simple camera flash. We don't have to wait 20 minutes for them to dilate in order to look at the back of the eyes. We can just take this simple camera flash and we can see these systemic conditions. There are also different conditions that affect the optic nerve, such as infectious diseases. I had a patient several months ago that actually had West Nile virus, and they did not know that they had it, right? They came to me for pain on eye movement. I walked them over to the retinal image device. We took that simple camera flash, and I could see that optic nerve bulging out. That's a trip to the emergency room, right? As we both know, we need to ensure that with an MRI that nothing else is going on. Lo and behold, that patient had meningitis. It flared up the brain and it traveled all the way to the optic nerve. But they came to see the optometrist first because they had pain on eye movement. There was so much pressure built up, she couldn't stand it anymore. And so we didn't have to wait for this. We had to go over, take that retinal image, that simple camera flash. I didn't need to wait 25 minutes for her to dilate. And then I sent her on her way to the hospital to get into the hands of the right people. So the efficiency, the cost of this, which is again very minimal, has changed the way we've practiced forever and how we looked at the back of the eyes and the retina.
Yeah, and we could tell a lot about the vascular health of somebody because we're looking at the small capillaries, and disease will happen in the capillaries way before it's going to happen in the heart, possibly the brain. The kidneys have small capillaries as well, but we can't see the blood vessels in the kidneys, but we could see the blood vessels in the eye. Talk to me about some of the vascular changes that we could see in back of the eye.
So cardiovascular wise, endocrine wise, when we're looking at those blood vessels, we want to ensure several different things. We want to ensure that specifically there isn't any bleeding in the back of the eyes. And bleeding, hemorrhaging, we call it, is it takes several different forms. Two that we look at are smaller capillary disease that we just discussed in diabetes, insulin resistance, right? It's a huge epidemic in the States here. And when we look at the back of the eyes, we need to ensure that a specific type of bleeding we call dot blot hemorrhaging. It's essentially if you took a little paintbrush and you dotted that on the back of the eyes, we need to ensure that that small vessel disease, diabetes, is not occurring. When we see those small dot blot hemorrhages, we ensure and we bring you over to your primary care or endocrinologist to take your A1C and blood sugar levels again to see if you're developing insulin resistance and diabetes. On the other hand, there's another type of hemorrhage that we call a flame-shaped hemorrhage or a splinter hemorrhage, right? That is more macrovascular, blood pressure related, right? So when we look at the back of the eyes, my point to you and the general public is just by how the hemorrhage looks, the bleeding spot looks, we can get you into the hands of the right people and we can tell, is it diabetes related or is it more blood pressure related just by looking at the blood vessels in the back of the eyes? And we can get you into the hands of the right people as a result of that.
And what's really amazing is by looking at the caliper of the blood vessels, we could tell if somebody's at risk for a stroke, they're at risk for a heart attack. And now with AI, they're doing studies and they're showing there's many different combinations of the way the blood vessels are to see if somebody's at risk for a stroke or a heart attack. And the optometrist is going to be the one that's going to be on that's primary care, that's going to be out there preventing mortality and morbidity. In other words, we're going to be saving lives.
Absolutely. And the big talk nowadays is the different medications that we're giving to these patients. The big thing that we need to do is ensure that we're getting to the underlying issue. We can give as many of these weight loss drugs and different metformin, insulin levels, for these patients, but we need to get to the underlying issue and looking at their
Hold it right
sugar
there,
levels.
Dr. Robs. We're up against the break. This is Dr. Kerry Gell for Open Your Eyes Radio. I'm speaking with Illinois optometrist, Dr. Conor Robs. We'll be right back.
MacuHealth, your science-born and tested solutions for visual performance, macular degeneration, and dry eye syndrome. New products coming soon. Embrace the science.
We're back with Illinois optometrist, Dr. Conor Robs. And before the break, we were talking about vascular disease and how if we could see it early in the eye, we could prevent heart attacks, strokes, and save lives. Continue on that conversation, Dr. Robs.
So what we were just discussing is the different medications, GLP-1 drugs, metformin, insulin levels that many of these doctors are prescribing nowadays. I think it's great for, again, optometry, but also other healthcare professions that we're able to provide a vast majority and a wide variety of these medications for patients. But I try to preach to a lot of our patients, getting to the underlying issues such as diabetes and blood pressure of why we've become insulin resistant and why we're seeing a lot of these hemorrhaging types in the back of the eyes, right? So we need to ensure as healthcare providers, yes, we can provide many different medications to treat these conditions, but we need to talk more about the nutrition and how it affects the back of the eyes and why we're seeing these different hemorrhaging types.
So you did a paper on nutrition and neurological disease and exercise. Tell us a little bit about what you discovered.
What we discovered at the University of Illinois in Champaign, we did a lot of studies on antioxidant levels and how it protects the macula. The macula controls our central vision and the vast majority of our color vision, right? When I show patients the macula in the back of the eye, it's pigmented. It's filled with antioxidants such as lutein and zeaxanthin that we get from different nutritional types such as eggs, avocados, different brightly colored vegetables that travel to the macula. It's very protective in nature when it comes to the sun and different stress levels, antioxidant levels in the back of the eye. What we found is with different patients, especially with multiple sclerosis, some of these neurodegenerative conditions, when they were neuroprotective, when they were again, ingesting a lot of these different antioxidants in food forms, such as, again, avocados specifically and eggs, we took a look at, they were, again, preventative in terms of macular diseases such as macular degeneration, where macular degeneration really degrades the central vision of a lot of these people. So the studies that we've done have shown that they are very neuroprotective in nature when you're eating a lot of these antioxidants, and they literally do travel to the back of the brain. That goes back to our retinal imaging conditions and our conversation that we had, where we can literally see the pigment, we can measure the pigment in the back of the eyes. We can see their antioxidant levels, and we can see if they are neuroprotective for these people or not.
And what's in the avocados that is beneficial to the eye?
The two antioxidants, like we talked about, lutein and zeaxanthin, they're specific, again, antioxidants that are good for harmful sunlight specifically.
Yeah, and there's also supplements that have lutein,
Mhm.
zeaxanthin, zeaxanthin, which is dead center, and people do really well. Now, if the pigment is thick in the back of the eye, what advantage is it to the patient?
So what we've found is, again, the risk for macular issues such as macular degeneration significantly decrease, right? But the really interesting thing, especially in people with multiple sclerosis, some of these neurodegenerative conditions, when they had high antioxidant levels in the macula, we said that they were neuroprotective. We actually saw that their multiple sclerosis, from a broad macro standpoint, did not progress as much when they were physically active, right? They had their mobility still more so than their counterparts that did not eat the avocados and the eggs, right? So they had the condition progress a lot less likely when they were eating these conditions or eating these vegetables, avocados, eggs in comparison to their counterparts who did not. So their mobility, when they were not eating these neuroprotective foods, was not as good for that group of patients.
Tell me about omega-3s. How are they protective?
So omega-3s, we talk a lot more with the front surface of the eye and the meibomian glands. Meibomian glands line the upper and lower eyelids of the front part of the orbit. And so what happens is they're filled with oils, they're filled with fats, and these omega-3s are very, very protective in nature in terms of dry eye. As humans, and we're sitting at desk jobs a lot of these times, we don't blink enough, and these oil glands can get really clogged up over time when we're staring at computers all day. And so, what these omega-3s do is keep the oil in that meibomian gland, and it can be very protective for dry eye nowadays.
And there's certain instrumentation that we use. We talked about retinal imaging, taking photographs, but there's something else that we use, something called OCT. Tell me about OCT and how could that help the general public when they're going into the optometrist's office? If they get scanned with an OCT, how could that help them with a variety of different disease conditions?
The OCT is by far and away my favorite instrument that we have. And the OCT takes at a cellular level, less than a few microns. We're talking very, very small structures in the back of the eye. The OCT takes scans of the back of the eyes. We can take a scan of either the macula, right, controlling the central vision, and or your optic nerve. The OCT really differentiated itself from other instruments years ago because we were able to see if macular degeneration was progressing and or if glaucoma was progressing. The big thing with OCT is it only takes about 15, 20 seconds to scan the back of the eyes and see if these conditions are present and or progressing in patients. The big thing and future direction of the OCT that many researchers, optometrists, ophthalmologists, and PhDs have really collaborated on is, are the optic nerve, are these OCTs able to detect Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, these neurodegenerative conditions earlier, right? So as we speak right now, there's a lot of time, money, and research going into, can we use OCT as a preliminary biomarker for these neurodegenerative conditions? And the fact of the matter is this OCT is very inexpensive that you and I know, less than $100 for a scan to your medical insurance, right? In comparison to a five, six, $7,000 MRI. So if we're able to detect these, dementia, neurodegenerative conditions, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's a little bit earlier, potentially with an eye scan, you better believe that we're going to continue that research in the future.
And what does exercise do for us? How does it increase blood flow? And does it increase blood flow to the retina as well as the rest of the body?
So what we've found with exercise and how it affects the eyes is, again, it goes back to how the body utilizes the energy and how it breaks down, right? We know that if we're staring at our computers and living a very sedentary lifestyle, we are not going to be able to metabolize a lot of this energy as well as if we were exercising, right? What happens is if we're not exercising, sugar can accumulate in the blood vessels, it can saturate them, and then they can leak, right? And so we see in the back of the eyes a lot of diabetes, insulin resistance as a result of these sedentary lifestyles. If you're utilizing the energy that you ingest every day, right, and you're burning the sugar, you're burning the fats, right, you're able to, again, live a much healthier lifestyle. And we're not seeing A1C levels rise as a result. We're seeing no bleeding in the back of the eyes, and people live a very good, fulfilling life with very, very good vision as a result of that.
Whoever thought they were going to go to their optometrist and their optometrist is going to talk to them about nutrition, it's going to talk to them about exercise. This is really a paradigm shift. If you could comment on that.
Absolutely. So I've had patients even talk to us very recently about migraines too. Migraines are huge as well. We talk to them about electrolyte levels, barometric pressure changing, seasonal changes, right? So it's a very broad scope of what we do for patients every day, right? Contacts and glasses are actually only a very small portion of the work that we do on a daily basis, right? So when I pull up the retinal imaging and I show them that the back of the eyes are very healthy. We talk about that there's no diabetes in the eye, there's no high blood pressure that we're seeing. People are amazed at the fact that we can see all of these things. The fact of the matter is I'm amazed that most new patients to us have never seen these retinal images before, right? And so it's our job as optometrists to educate the public and show them that we are able to see all of these neurological, cardiovascular, endocrine conditions as a result of taking these retinal images.
You know, we mentioned OCT before, but there's something now that measures vascular density, OCT angiography, and it could tell us about the health of the body because we could see dropout of some of these blood vessels. And if we see dropout, we know that their health is in peril. If you could talk a little bit about people with diabetes or macular degeneration or people that have trouble with OCT angiography, people that are at risk for a stroke or have had a stroke.
So OCT angiography, again, it's a component to our OCT instrument that we're able to really visualize the blood vessels in depth, right? So we are able to see if these capillaries at a very small micron density, if they are dropping out, if they are essentially damaged and or dead at that point, right? We are able to see at a microscopic level with OCT if the diabetes is, building up in the tissue, if those sugar levels are building up, and we can see if that retinal tissue is degrading as a result of, high sugar levels like we talked about. When we do these OCT angiographies of the back of the eyes, we can see if there's actual blood flow to that tissue or not, simply, right? And so everybody knows we need to make sure that that blood flow is equal and fluid throughout the entire retina in order for people to see clearly. And so the big thing too that we talk about when we're doing all these scans is many patients think that this is simply only happening in the eyes. I tell them, no, no, no. This dropout, this blood flow, it is inhibited throughout your entire body. There is actually leaky blood vessels throughout your entire body right now. This is a big issue that we need to get on.
Yeah, and if that capillary density is decreasing, that could happen in Alzheimer's disease, hypertension, diabetes, like you mentioned. So it's, this is a new frontier for optometrists. I want to thank Dr. Conor Robbs for joining me today, Illinois Optometrist. You did a great job. I want to thank you. This is Dr. Kerry Gale for Open Your Eyes Radio. We'll see you next week.
Your eyes and your vision are under attack, damaging blue light from the sun. Your phone, your computer, your tablet, even light bulbs and car headlights is constantly bombarding you. The good news is our eyes actually already have a line of defense to counter the effects of blue light. This defense is made up of 3 pigments called carotenoids. MacuHealth with Micromicelle, the only supplement with the exclusive patent on all 3 macular carotenoids and Micromicelle technology.
Fitting multifocal contact lenses presents a big opportunity to meet patient needs while growing your practice. Alcon is your partner not only with our innovative portfolio, but through e-learning. Learn to enhance your multifocal strategy today with the Alcon Experience Academy.